Looking for a way to transport those e-bikes around? The Yakima StageTwo might just be the rack for you. The Yakima StageTwo is a 2-bike bike rack with the option for a 2-bike extension. It comes in at $850 for 2 different colorway options in the 2-inch receiver and 1 color option for the 1.25 inch. Yakima offers a bunch of accessories for this bike rack, as you would expect from Yakima. Inclusive of that is the Safety Mate lighting kit and a ramp up, which is a nice loading ramp to help get those heavy e-bikes loaded onto the rack. The StageTwo is a tiered bike rack, which is a really cool feature because it allows your handlebars and your pedals and your wheels, everything's just off-planed a little bit because it's, well, tiered. The rack also tilts up and down to allow access to the hatch with bikes loaded. The strong arm hook secures the bike wheels and protects the paint from any rubbish. The cool new features about the Yakima rack is the tool-free speed knob, which at first I will say I was a little skeptical of, with a pin that goes into the side, unlike an actual pin that will go all the way through your hitch. The speed knob though is a very convenient adjustable knob that you can lock and unlock to tighten that rack down within the hitch receiver. The speed knob also acts as an anti-rattle to keep the rack nice and tight within that receiver. The Yakima StageTwo is RV certified, which is a big deal for those of you looking, especially those of you that have e-bikes that you're looking to travel with. For the purpose of this video, we intentionally have a bike on here that is over the rated specifications. Yakima specifically says it is rated to carry e-bikes up to 60 pounds, and that's per tray. This adventure here is over that rated limit, and we specifically put it on here just for this video so you guys could see that even though it fits and looks like it can go on there, it doesn't mean that it's supposed to be there. This rack can accommodate from 29 all the way down to 20-inch bikes, as well as fat tire bikes. Now, in order to run a fat tire bike, you do have to buy another accessory, so it will add to your bill, but it is the minor cost to have the rear tire strapped down securely. So a really cool feature that Yakima has brought into this bike rack, which we think is necessary. Although lightweight, this lock is something that you can loop around, take your key, and lock the bike on there. And it's great to buy you a little extra time when maybe you have to run into the gas station or stop at a rest stop. Would I leave them on there overnight like this? Absolutely not. Fortunately, Yakima has included a nice welded on loop. Essentially, it's just a piece of metal that is open that you could run a very nice lock through. Again, we do not recommend locking your bikes on your bike rack overnight if you're going to be leaving them, but it is something that you can do to add that peace of mind. Now, when we're talking about all these accessories with the light kit and the ramp, the biggest accessory that we find most useful with this ramp, although something we don't like to use too much, is the 2-bike add-on. So you can actually run up to 4 bikes on this rack. In doing so, the load capacity definitely goes down per tray, but it does open up the opportunity to run all 4 bikes. Now, if you are trying to save some weight on those bikes as you load them onto the rack, you can do things like remove your batteries to make them a little bit lighter. Overall, the Yakima StageTwo is a very well-built bike rack, much to expect from Yakima. It took no time at all to assemble and put together, and the instructions made total sense. And having it on the back of the car, I personally have driven all the way to Tennessee and back with bikes on it and didn't second guess it at all. It held up well, got all the way back home after a couple thousand miles and didn't even have to tighten it down again. So that speed knob works very well, and I'm actually impressed. I know I did have a lot of hesitation and resistance against that little tiny pin, but after that many miles, I guess Yakima knows what they're doing. When it comes to loading bikes and using this as the bike rack and the bike rack function of it, it is very seamless. And everything about these hooks and the ratchet straps makes loading bikes and the variation of bikes so simple. For the ones that are heavier and those of you that might have weak shoulders, or after the end of a long ride where you're a little bit more tired, putting that ramp down and loading a bike on that is something that I wouldn't have thought of before, but it's something I do every single time I take my motorcycle out and use the motorcycle rack. So to use that on a bicycle kind of makes sense, and I'm glad that they thought of that for those of us that might have weaker shoulders. One of the coolest things that Yakima has done on this bike rack is they make these trays tiered, which is so convenient when it comes to making sure handlebars and seats and pedals, everything has the opportunity to clear each other because of that height. Before, bike racks just being flat, bikes have a tendency to hit each other, as well as your ground clearance. When you start getting further away from the car and everything's level, your point of hitting when you're pulling out of a curb is that much lower. So that extra step of making it tiered and slightly at an angle helps even just your wheelbase and driving to not hit this on the ground coming off of a curb. Now, who do we think the Yakima StageTwo is for? Well, it is expensive, so it is definitely for someone that's not afraid of spending a few dollars on something that's gonna make their life easier, maybe even better. The option to have one bike rack that can go and hold up to 4 bikes, as well as a bike rack that can hold 29 down to 20-inch tires and fat tires. There are not many bike racks on the market that have that wide of a spectrum that will hold that many different types of bikes as securely and stout and safe as this rack does. Yes, it is expensive, but you are getting something that is going to protect your bike and keep it locked in and keep it safe. Well, thank you so much for watching. If you have any comments or questions about the Yakima StageTwo, please leave those down below. We will try our best to answer them as best we can. If there is another bike rack that you're curious about or you think might be better for e-bikes, again, let us know down in the comments. Make sure you subscribe to the channel though, because the numbers are saying if you're watching this, likely you haven't subscribed yet. We're trying to help you and you can help us out. We'd love and appreciate it if you click that little red button down below. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in the next one.